Hello, boys and girls. We are continuing topic 16. We're starting to near the end of it. We've been spending a lot of time on our angles and looking at how to measure those angles. In our last lesson, we actually got into looking at what makes a polygon and naming some of those different polygons based on the number of sides. In fourth grade, we focus in on two specific types of polygons. So today's lesson, we're going to focus in on triangles and how to classify those triangles based on their sides and their angles. Just like we did with the polygons, basing, their names based on the sides and the numbers of angles. So triangles are named the same way. There's different angle triangles to sort them by. And we have this little thought bubble right here. We'll put a little star next to it. We can group things such as triangles based on the lengths of their sides. Okay, we can all three can be the same size. We can look at a triangle where only two sides are equal, and then we can look at a triangle where none of the sides are equal. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to draw a line to each of those for you. A triangle that has three equal sides, all three sides are the same, is called an equilateral triangle. And it has that equal in there. So that's kind of a nice little way to help you remember that equilateral triangle. Our triangle where only two sides are the same is an isosceles. So two sides are equal. This third side is a different length. So that's what we call an isosceles triangle. And then we look at our scalene triangle where all three of these sides are a different length. So there's no equal sides in there. So we have our equilateral triangles, our isosceles triangles, and our scalene triangles. And it counts down kind of, but like 3, 2, we skip 1 and go to 0 because there's only 3 sides on a triangle. Okay. So if I was to draw, actually I'm going to keep that. If I was to draw this triangle, okay, and I told you these two sides I have the lines on are the same, what would you call that? And if you guess correctly, it would be an isosceles. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at a few more ways to look at triangles. Okay. If you remember from the previous screen, we had equilateral, we had isosceles, and we had scalene. Okay. We can also name these triangles based on their angles. A right triangle, if you guess or if you remember correctly, a right angle is 90 degrees. A right triangle means one of those angles is exactly 90 degrees or a right angle. That right angle can make it into an equilateral triangle. It can make it into an equilateral triangle, isosceles triangle, um, but it can also be called a right triangle based on that angle. Then we have our acute triangle. An acute angle, if you remember, is less than 90 degrees, right? So that angle over here would make it less than 90 degrees. And they're saying that this angle, and this angle are all less than 90. It doesn't mean just one angle. It means that all three angles in that triangle are less than 90 degrees. And then we have our obtuse triangle, and that makes that angle bigger than 90 degrees. And that does not mean that all three angles, it just means that one of your angles needs to be obtuse or measure larger than 90 degrees. Okay? So, lots of different ways to classify these triangles based on the lengths of their sides, based on their angles. If you were to look at these three, though, I would say if we had to name each of them, for example, I'm going to look at our middle one here for a minute. All three of these sides are equal. So I'm going to say that's our equilateral. Okay. What would you name this triangle? And if you guess correctly, that's our isosceles. Okay. And then what would you name this triangle, do you think? And if you guess correctly, it again is isosceles. Even though it looks like this side and this side could be equal, if I was to bring this side down, I think it would lay slightly longer than that bottom side. Okay. So you can give a triangle more than one name as well, is what I was trying to get out of this. Even though this is our obtuse triangle, it's also an isosceles based on the fact, or sorry, not an isosceles, a scalene, and I got that wrong. Okay, because none of the sides are equal. Okay. All right, boys and girls, your practice problems tonight are going to be just identifying and classifying our triangles and seeing how many different ways you can name them. All right, boys and girls, thank you.